Hi everyone! Welcome to the first episode of the new series. And as you may guess from the title of this video, this series will be about using mixed media in coloring books. From my own experiences, I know that using mixed media is often very intimidating and we tend to stick to the medium we are used to. Usually it means colored pencils, which is absolutely fine, and colored pencils are just the best, versatile and just the best medium you can use. And there is nothing bad if you are using only colored pencils. I myself sometimes also use only colored pencils. And especially if you find those that you really like. For me, those are Prismacolor. So that's absolutely fine if you want to color only with colored pencils. If you are enjoying that the most, that's absolutely beautiful. However, in some cases, you may want to explore more in this world of coloring. And not only in the world of coloring, but art in general. And in this case, it can be really overwhelming to not only decide what you want to do, but what to use and how to use it. Especially if you are used to use only the colored pencils. So in this series, I would like to show you how you can combine various media, which media you can actually use, and how to use them, and mainly how to use them together. Also, I intend to use coloring books that I am not coloring in very often and which I don't use for my main coloring videos. Another benefit I see from doing this series is that I can show you more coloring books, maybe coloring books you don't even know, but could be interesting for you. This is the first page I did with this intention. It's the coloring book The Plant Parent Wish List by RACINE. And I have this coloring book for years because actually Jen sent me this book when I was at the beginning of my YouTube channel because I was doing the series The Artist Discovery. And I was presenting her books and I was talking more about her and other artists as well, just to let people know about not that known artists. The video is still on my channel, so if you're interested, you can check it out. But for now, for this video, I think it is the best way how to show you not only the illustrator and the book, but also show you some mixed media techniques. And for me, there is also the benefit that I can color simple, not complicated, not overwhelming picture, and I can push my creativity a little bit more and just relax while coloring, not thinking that much about my setup, lights, and my table, you know, all those YouTube stuff. So I think it's a win-win for all of us. And what will be the structure of those videos of this series? So first of all, I will present you the finished page. And while I will be explaining what I was using on the page and how I was processing and what was my thoughts during the coloring, I will be showing you the clips from the coloring process and I will be showing you the most important things I will be talking about, but the full footage, full color along, or not color along, but full coloring video will be up on my Patreon. So if we look at the other side of the page, we can see that I was using alcohol markers. And actually, I really like how the page looks like from the back. I was basing everything with alcohol markers. And I was using blue, green, and yellow colors. And I was trying to stick to those colors only. In the video, you can see that I was actually shading with alcohol markers. Oh, and I was using cheaper brand from, I believe, Amazon or AliExpress. Amazon, yeah, from Amazon. And it was just a great deal. I wanted a large set of alcohol markers for a good price, so I get those. And as you can see, after I did the base layer with the lightest color, for example with the lightest green on the leaves, I then went back with my darkest shade and middle shade, and I did the shading. I don't think this step was really necessary because I was using other media on top of that. It would be probably enough if I would leave the base color only like one color and didn't bother with shading. I still find this helpful. It's the same like doing the base wash or using toned paper. Another thing why I think this is helpful is that you practice with alcohol markers. And you don't have to worry that you mess up because you will cover it with another media. Again, win-win situation. Of course, with alcohol markers, always use some sheets of paper or a cardboard or the plastic sheet that Ohuhu provides and place it under the page you are coloring. It's very important because alcohol markers bleed through the page. That's just how they behave, no matter how thick the page is. I know that Ohuhu, they have some sketchbooks and papers that are bleed proof, but I haven't tried that. Anyway, you don't have this in coloring books, so you have to be extra cautious. And I recommend to use rather more papers than less, because that's what happened to me. I will just show you very quickly the page from a Mountain King coloring book by R.J.Hampson. And I was doing the stained glass with alcohol markers. And even though I used like a cardboard paper which has, I believe, 140 GSM at minimum, I was so heavy with alcohol markers that it still bled through the sheet of the paper and left marks on my other illustration. Oh, and by the way, it bled through this page as well and marked another one. Not that much, fortunately, but still, we are not always that lucky that we have two copies in the book, right? Just keep this in mind if you are using alcohol markers. As I said, I did the shading with alcohol markers. The technique is quite simple. You just do the base layer and then I went back with the darkest. I always used 3 tones, light, medium and dark tone of the same color. So I went back with the darkest color, I applied a line and then I went over it with my middle color, with my middle shade, and I was trying to be quick enough so the dark layer wouldn't dry completely. And as quick as possible, I was just going over the dark part, and with less and less strokes, I was going toward the center. So this way, all the colors blend together and created this quite nice effect, this 3D effect. And honestly, I really liked how the page looked like with only alcohol markers. And I would be able to go over only with colored pencils. But I thought, no, let's use more. So I took my oil pastels. I have it for some time, but because those Van Gogh oil pastels are a bit harder, they are not soft like Mungyo oil pastels or Lightwish, I didn't use them. But this time I thought that just because they are harder, it will be perfect to use them for the illustration because I don't need to smudge and to blend them that much on the huge background, but I wanted to use them only for the leaves. And yes, it was really great to use them. The fact that they are a little bit harder gave me more control over the application because you just need to be a little bit more precise if you are coloring the illustration and not the background. if you have harder oil pastels and you don't know what to do with them, this is a perfect example how you can use them. And I was using, I believe, 2 colors from Moongyo's set as well, just because I didn't have dark enough shade in the Van Gogh set. But it doesn't matter, they combined very well. And as you can see, I was doing only the shadows with oil pastels. So I went over the already shadowed areas that I actually shadowed with alcohol markers. But it gave me some kind of the guidelines for oil pastels. So yeah, this is another helpful point for shading with alcohol markers. So I was applying few of dark and middle tones around the leaves, and then I smudged that with my finger, and I was leaving the center of the leaf light. So I didn't cover the full leaf, I left the markers showing through them. In the end, I took very light green oil pastel and I did the veins with that, and I outlined all the leaves, and then I just lightly smudged the lines, and I tried to smudge them more on the edges so they would kind of disappear into the dark part. But as you can see, the edges wasn't dark enough, probably because I mixed the light oil pastel, the light green, with the darks. I made it lighter, so it lost its 3D effect. So what I did, I took my Prismacolors and I went over with a black color. But you can see how adding the black shadows on top of the oil pastels really helped with the drama and with the contrast. Now you could think, alright, so if you're using colored pencils over oil pastels, don't you scrape the oil pastels out of the coloring page? The answer is yes, but not completely. For example, if you would like to use yellow colored pencil over black oil pastels, you wouldn't have clear, pure yellow in the end. It would be muddy and not bright. You would still see the residue from oil pastels. But as you can see, you can use it to define some darkest areas. I wasn't using the black pencil on the full area that was covered with oil pastels, only on the edges and also under the veins, because I wanted to make them pop a little bit. Then I was using colored pencils over, well, basically everything. The flower pot and the index card, or how is this called? The menu. And I tried to make those as buttons. And because we have this index card on every page, there are plenty opportunities to try different styles. And actually it was fun to make buttons. In the end, I was using white acrylic paint pen. I wasn't using Posca, I was using Art Magico, which is local brand. The markers are much cheaper than Posca. And I was very light when I went over the plant. I didn't want to have very thick lines over the veins. I wanted to emphasize those veins a little bit, but not that much. And then I went over with a green pencil, so I would mute the whiteness and the brightness of the white acrylic pen. And the last step on this coloring page was to add a little bit of something on the background. I didn't want to color the background fully because I really like the look of the index card and that the plant goes out of the frame, but I didn't like that it's empty. So I decided that I take my circle stencil and I will just do some circles. And then I used oil pastels and I colored those circles. Again, I tried to play with highlights and with shadows to create like not only flat circles, but more like spheres. and I didn't use any sealer on top of the oil pastels because this coloring book has only one-sided illustrations and I wasn't using oil pastels on vast majority of the page. I decided that I will not use any varnish or so, which means I will just leave it as it is and I can just close the book and it will be fine. I will not ruin any illustration, and if you want an extra protection without using any varnish, you can use a parchment or baking paper and you can place it on your page. It will not smudge your oil pastels even if you will not seal them. And I really like how the page turned out in the end. However, I see that I could spend more time on details and I could make it even better if I would, for example, take some metallic or gold watercolors. I could use it to outline the yellow frames. I could add a little bit of sparkle on the flower pot. And I could also outline the small text in each box, but I wasn't creating any art piece. I really wanted just to have my first page in this book colored. At this point, it took me already something over 4 hours. So I thought that's just enough. And maybe next time I can add a little bit more elements. I have so many art supplies that I didn't use and I want to use, for example, some glitter glues. So that will be something I will be using next time. I hope this video was helpful. If so, I would appreciate if you could give this video a like, and you can looking forward to more videos like this. Have a meow someday and bye!